A Chinese infectious disease expert says there's an increasing number of asymptomatic cases, which raises fears of community spreading. He adds the CCP virus is one of the most difficult viruses to handle the world has ever seen. The Chinese regime has been ramping up its aid to foreign countries despite the dire situation inside the epicenter. Experts warn that Beijing may have bigger political plans. A Wuhan resident told us the tragedy he witnessed with his own mother and exposes how the Chinese regime is trying to cover up the real death toll caused by the CCP virus. 550 NYPD officers test positive for the CCP virus, and President Trump considers a mandatory quarantine for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The novel coronavirus, or CCP virus, has infected over 600,000 worldwide. Tens of thousands of deaths have now been reported. Zhang Wenhong, an infectious disease expert in Shanghai, says it's one of the most difficult to handle viruses the world has ever seen. At a seminar on March 27th, he said there are an increasing number of asymptomatic patients. These patients have a strong immune system. Even after 14 days of infection, they may display sickness but can still infect others, increasing the risk of community transmission. He says the virus is unlike anything else in history. It's highly contagious like the flu, but the symptoms are severe like SARS. This makes it one of the hardest to deal with in history. While Ebola was cruel, it didn't spread far. The CCP virus, however, might be worse than we have imagined. Zhang says it's twice as contagious as Ebola or HIV. On February 28th, Zhang said the virus must have originated in Wuhan, China. If it came from abroad, it would have appeared in a number of cities at once, not just one. Once infected, Zhang said many patients recover without medical help. The best things to do are to relax, drink more water, eat well, and get plenty of sleep. But around 10 to 20% of patients will need oxygen and hospitalization. He says around 5% will die if they don't make it to a hospital in time. And as the CCP virus continues spreading around the world, some overseas Chinese are taking a stand against the communist regime. They are apologizing to the U.S. and the world for the party's actions. In a high-risk move, one netizen inside China uploaded a video calling for the dissolution of the Communist Party for the sake of future generations. He says while the virus is terrible, the ideology installed by the Communist Party regime is even worse. He called on people to stand together and resist the CCP.
At this moment of disaster, I advocate that all conscientious and righteous Chinese and members of the Communist Party can stand up and dissolve the Communist Party. The virus is terrible, but even more terrifying is Marxist-Leninist communist atheism. Marxism-Leninism is a spiritual plague, and this spiritual plague brings disaster everywhere.
The video has since gone viral. Zhao signed off by saying that he believed in God, had no mental health issues, and if he were arrested, would not commit suicide. This is because if he were killed in custody, authorities may say he committed suicide. He added he is healthy, had no fever, and had been isolating at home for quite some time. He told our sister media, the Epoch Times, he made the video because there's still a chance for change.
First, I am in good health. Second, I have no fever and have been in self-isolation for a long time. Third, I believe in God and Jesus Christ. I have no mental illness at all and will not commit suicide.
Chinese authorities lifted travel restrictions on many cities inside Hubei, China's virus epicenter. Residents are allowed to leave as long as they have a green code showing their health is in good standing. However, the neighboring provinces aren't convinced it proves people are disease-free. On March 27th, a video circulating on the internet shows Hubei residents putting up a banner on a road leading to Anhui, protesting local government setting up barricades to bar entry to Hubei residents. One of the banners reads, "The pandemic is heartless, but humans have compassion. Why aren't you letting me in?" And Anhui isn't alone. On the same day, police from Jiangxi province prohibited Hubei residents from entering their region. Police from both provinces broke into a fight. Video circulating on the internet shows more people later joining the fight, shouting, "Hubei go! Hubei go!" Multiple videos show people clashing with police. Amid the chaos, a police car was overthrown. The fight underscores people's distrust, even though Chinese authorities have eased lockdown in Hubei, saying the outbreak is under control. Not everyone is buying it. One netizen said the outbreak is actually pretty serious still. To bring the economy back on track, the central government can only say the outbreak is under control in order that the lockdown be removed. The local government knows what is actually happening. That's why they don't let Hubei residents in. Another user said they are following the example set by their superiors. Isn't Beijing barring entry to Hubei residents? Then why would other places allow them in? Another Twitter user said, so the Chinese Communist Party is eager to turn internal conflicts into external conflicts. They will find trouble with the U.S. Following the CCP playbook, they want anti-Chinese violence to happen overseas so that Chinese people will unite against external forces. And though the dire situation in Wuhan continues, the Chinese regime has been ramping up its aid to foreign countries. Experts warn that Beijing may have bigger political plans.
If you watch China's state media, it's hard to miss a common theme in their current COVID-19 coverage.
中国政府决定向塞尔维亚派遣抗疫医疗专家组。
目前的专家组已经抵达柬埔寨首都金边。
12名医疗专家飞抵米兰。
Despite the suicide, deaths, and starvation that's still going on in Wuhan, China, the authorities are spending money to ramp up aid to foreign countries and touting the importance of cooperating with China. But some are warning that the free lunch from the Chinese Communist Party may not be so easy to swallow.
Where the situation is...
Josep Borrell is a high representative from the European Union. In a recent bulletin, he wrote to his colleagues in the bloc that Western leaders should stay alert. He said through Spain and the politics of generosity, Beijing might be seeking international influence. A China affairs commentator said this is a trick commonly used by the communist regime.
First, they beat you and break your leg, and then they kindly offer you a walking stick. Now people are talking about how helpful the CCP stick is. It works so well. It has so many functions. But if the CCP didn't break your leg in the first place, if it didn't create the crisis, you wouldn't even need this walking stick.
The Chinese regime silenced whistleblowers and cracked down on journalists to cover up the outbreak. It also hid that the virus is contagious among humans, allowing it to spread in China and globally. As of Thursday, nearly 430,000 people outside of China have contracted the disease. After China's outbreak reportedly eased up, the regime launched a campaign to shift the blame to US and Italy. Experts, state media, Chinese ambassador, and foreign ministry spokesmen all joined the campaign. Tang said in discrediting the US and Europe, the CCP has bigger plans.
If the CCP succeeds in pushing their narrative, not only are they not responsible for their crimes, somehow the CCP became the hero that saved the world.
One narrative China has been pushing during the pandemic is its superior political system compared with Western democracy. Some say that narrative has penetrated into Western media. In a recent interview on Epoch Times American Thought Leaders, China Affairs journalist Maura Moynihan voiced her concern.
It was very alarming to see on NBC News an anchor had a guest, an American woman, who was praising the Chinese Communist Party for their tremendous control and how they're doing so much better than America.
A previous undercover investigation by NTD found that a funeral home in Wuhan was reporting only about 6% of death from COVID-19, suggesting the real death toll in China could be dozens of times more. Tang said the Chinese regime has politicized the pandemic to achieve its goal, convincing the world that China's system is the better alternative.
It's trying to replace the U.S. to become the world leader, and then export its totalitarian way of governing, the kind of digital totalitarianism that we are looking at right now in China. The CCP is trying to export and expand it to international society. Its ambition is basically to govern the entire world.
But he said what we are seeing today is the same as what happened with SARS, another pandemic caused by a deliberate cover-up from an oppressive regime, and people should rethink whether the regime should be trusted if they want to prevent another pandemic. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
A Wuhan resident told us the tragedy he witnessed with his own mother and exposes how the Chinese regime is trying to cover up her death by the CCP virus. NTD Xu and Rong has the story.
Since March 23rd, Wuhan funeral homes have been stacked with thousands of urns and crowds of people waiting to pick up the ashes of their relatives who died during the outbreak. Mr. Yi was one of them.
I couldn't count the number of urns I saw when I went to pick it up. There's a room full of urns. It's not one room, it's as big as a hall in a temple. It was stacked from the inside to the door, and they're also stacked in front of the door.
Yi lost his mother on February 1st. She was cremated within an hour of dying. Earlier that day, Yi had spent more than 10 hours trying to find a hospital that would accept his mother for treatment.
People who came to see the doctor at that time were going to have a CT scan of their lungs. They wanted to separate out the infected first. The doctor saw my mother's lung was infected and said that the hospital couldn't treat it. You have to go to a designated hospital.
Going through 3 different hospitals, still no one could help.
No one can treat this disease. Dial 110, 120, they all don't care. I don't know if it was too much for them or what else. No one cares about you. The doctor told me, I really can't help you here. I don't know how many died in this hall. Your situation is common. You can figure it out yourself.
Finally, after entering the ICU, within half an hour she passed away. But the cause of her death was recorded as respiratory failure. He couldn't believe the official death toll, since he himself had witnessed how the regime had tried to cover up the cause of his mother's death. He said he also has a friend whose mother died from the virus, and it wasn't recognized either. He added that those who died from suspect cases wouldn't be counted in the official death toll. Reporting by Xu and Rong, NTD News.
And in New York, the number of infected in the police department is rising. Over 550 officers have tested positive for the virus. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on the NYPD.
Over 550 members of the NYPD have tested positive for the CCP virus, also known as COVID-19. 3 have died, but on Friday, the commissioner said there's hope.
On the uniform and the civilian side, we're over 550 that have confirmed tested positive for COVID. All right? But there is a silver lining. Today, first 2 people that tested COVID positive actually got put back to work.
On Friday, 11% of the NYPD called in sick, but now with these 2 recoveries, the commissioner assured the department that a rush of members would come back in a week or 2. And in all, over 52,000 people have tested positive for the virus in New York State. Over 700 have died and over 7,000 are hospitalized. Governor Cuomo said he expects the outbreak to peak in 14 to 21 days and is preparing for the worst case scenario.
If we can't flatten the curve, you can't slow the infection rate, you hit that apex, make sure you're ready for the apex, and that's where the 30,000 ventilators come in.
President Trump has ordered General Motors to produce ventilators, and the company said it plans to deliver more than 10,000 a month. Cuomo has also postponed the tax filing deadline to July and the primary election to June. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
President Trump at Naval Station Norfolk in Virginia today. He saw off the hospital ship Comfort, now en route to New York City. The president also hinted at the possibility of a mandatory quarantine for the city and its surrounding areas.
President Trump says he's considering an enforceable quarantine for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. The tri-state area has seen a surge in CCP virus cases. He says he'll make a decision on the quarantine soon. The president spoke as the U.S. Navy hospital ship Comfort set off for New York.
This great ship behind me is a 70,000-ton message of hope and solidarity to the incredible people of New York, a place I know very well, a place I love. We're here for you, we're fighting for you, and We are with you all the way, and we always will be.
The 1,000-bed ship will arrive on Monday. 1,200 crew members are aboard and will begin caring for patients from Tuesday.
Among the sailors departing today are some of the finest doctors, nurses, technicians, orderlies, and medical staff anywhere in the world. These are true professionals.
Trump says many of America's top private manufacturers are now ramping up production of much-needed medical supplies. The U.S. will make as many ventilators in the next 100 days as it usually makes in a year. Any excess will go to allies like the U.K.
At Boeing, Ford, Honeywell, 3M, Haynes, and other great American companies, factory floors and manufacturing lines are being converted to produce the respirators, protective masks, face shields, and other vital equipment.
The number of cases is rising across the U.S., over 110,000 now in total. Even retired military members may be recalled to help, Trump signing an executive order to allow it. Louisiana is seeing a surge in cases. Florida now needs anyone traveling from the state to self-quarantine for 2 weeks.
There's a fear that as New Orleans becomes more of a hot spot, that you could have an influx of people into the Florida Panhandle from Louisiana.
Florida already needs anyone traveling from New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut to do the same.
The FDA has approved an American company's virus test. It can be used in doctors' offices, urgent care clinics, and hospitals, and can diagnose people in minutes.
The current nasopharyngeal swab could leave you wondering if you have the coronavirus for days, as U.S. hospitals struggle to meet testing demands, with cases nationally now topping 100,000. But that could soon change with U.S. company Abbott Laboratories' new coronavirus test that can deliver a positive result in 5 minutes and a negative result in 13. Gavin Cloherty, head of infectious disease research diagnostics at Abbott, says the ID Now testing device is the size of a small kitchen appliance and is portable enough to even be used in a mobile unit.
It generates an accurate test result in a matter of minutes instead of hours or days. And that enables the healthcare provider to see a patient, diagnose a patient, and take the necessary interventions in a very short amount of time, and can help prevent further transmissions to other people.
Abbott on Friday said it won U.S. marketing approval under the Food and Drug Administration's emergency use authorization for the diagnostic test that can be used in physicians' offices and urgent care clinics as well as hospitals. Abbott plans to begin distributing the test next week and will ramp up manufacturing to 50,000 tests per day.
And Britain is building new field hospitals in cities across the country ahead of its expected peak of virus cases.
Britain says so far over 1,000 people have died after testing positive for the virus. Over 260 of them in the last 24 hours alone. The country's government says every death is tragic, but they're expecting many more to die.
Every death is tragic, and of course we need to do everything that we can to ensure that we don't lose the lives of loved ones to this terrible virus. The government said recently, if we can keep deaths below 20,000, we will have done very well in this epidemic.
The number of people testing positive has also risen to over 17,000. That's up from 14,000 on Friday. The country is largely on lockdown, with Britain's urge to stay home. Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Health Minister Matt Hancock are among those who have tested positive. The peak of the epidemic in the UK is expected to arrive in several weeks. In order to brace for the peak, Britain is building 4 new field hospitals in cities across the country. Emergency hospitals will be set up in London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Cardiff.
Hospitals in Madrid remained overcrowded on Saturday as confirmed virus cases surpassed 70,000 across the country.
According to the health ministry, Spain's coronavirus death toll rose by 832 overnight, to a total of over 5,500. The jump marked a new high for the daily rise in fatalities. Nursing homes across the country are overwhelmed. A skating rink in Madrid has been turned into a makeshift morgue, while a nearby park outside the building is normally a popular venue for children's birthday parties. According to Spanish media, the Madrid City of Justice, an empty building which was designed amid the failed City of Justice project in 2005, is also set to be turned into a second makeshift morgue. Spain extended the lockdown on Thursday to April 11th, adding 15 more days. The nation said it was fighting a real war over medical supplies needed to contain the death toll. It's now turning to China, where the virus originated, for many critical products.
And in Italy, the situation is even worse. Drone video filmed today shows the streets of Milan deserted as Italy suffers the highest daily death toll of anywhere in the world.
No one gathered to look at Milan's cathedral on Saturday, as Italy yet again recorded the highest daily toll. Over 900 deaths were reported within 24 hours. Nowhere else have that many people been lost due to the virus in such a short amount of time. Out of the over 900 deaths, more than 500 of them were recorded in the country's northern region of Lombardy, which includes Milan. In total, almost 6,000 were lost from this region alone. Among them, a 90-year-old woman. In the days leading up to her death, she had no contact with her relatives, as she had the potential to infect others. Her family members finally got to say goodbye after her passing. Funeral home workers and the woman's relatives wore protective masks and kept a safe distance in an effort to help avoid the risk of infection. According to a funeral worker, around 10 to 20 funerals are held in this cemetery daily, while one witness says one funeral is held every 30 minutes.
Airlines are now facing an unprecedented problem after idling thousands of aircraft due to the pandemic. Where to park them all?
Taxiways, maintenance hangars, and even runways at major airports transformed into giant parking lots for over 2,500 airliners. Cirium data says there are now more than twice as many planes in storage compared to January, and they expect more in the coming weeks, when carriers like Qantas Airways and Singapore Airlines make more cuts to their scheduled flights. In the U.S., United Airlines and American Airlines are parking planes at maintenance facilities, while Delta Airlines is still looking into the issue. Some airports in Australia are providing parking for free. Brisbane Airport said some international airlines wanted to use its facilities, but nothing had been agreed to yet. They can house up to 101 planes. Cathay Pacific Airways, one of the first and hardest hit by the CCP virus, has been using remote bays, taxiways, and other areas at Hong Kong's International Airport.
Restaurants in New York City issuing major layoffs and feeling the economic strain caused by the CCP virus outbreak. But we'll see how one restaurant owner has managed to keep some employees working and even provides free meals to medical workers. NTD's Kevin Hogan has the story.
This New York City restaurant saluting our heroes in the medical field with free meals. And Frank, the CEO, plans to continue doing so until the crisis is over.
We've had physical therapists, we've had doctors, we've had nurses, we've had everybody. All they need to do is come in, flash a badge, and we're happy to give them a bowl.
Across the country, a few chains like Starbucks and Krispy Kreme, as well as some local restaurants, have offered freebies to medical staff.
Different restaurants have been coming through, and just even like the little pick-me-ups just make a really big difference after a hard shift. So it's been great.
Frank works 2 jobs, takes care of his elderly mother and disabled sister, and drives their home health aid workers to and fro since the subway is risky as it can be crowded after the service cuts. This doesn't give him much time for shut-eye.
Went to sleep around 5, and then we have 2 kittens that wanted to get fed at 6 a.m., so it was a short little nap this morning.
His revenue has gone down 90% since early March when cases of the CCP virus, aka coronavirus, started spreading in the city. But that hasn't stopped him from giving back.
I'm not keeping the stores open for a profit. I'm just doing it for the jobs that it could create in the short term and, saying thanks.
One doctor says the free poke bowl was the highlight of her day off, and she appreciates people taking care of themselves as it helps control the chaos at the hospital.
People seem to be staying home when they need to stay home and coming when they need to come, so that's really helpful for us.
She says the hospital sites she works at are expanding their services and now using other departments like surgery for patients sick with the virus instead. Kevin Hogan, NTD News, New York.
Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.